Racing here with the Blue Marble Radical Cup North America Series, and I'm just waiting for the clock to count down because we're just about to start our live stream. But it is fantastic weather as the cars make their way around the circuit. There will be 2 pace laps. And so here we go. Welcome race fans from all around the world, those that are joining us here at Barber Motorsports Park and across the globe. This is the Blue Marble Radical Cup North America Series, and this is race 1 of round 1 of the season. And an amazing qualifying session we had earlier today as the Honda Odyssey pace car leads the field around, drivers trying to get some heat in those hand-cooked tyres. On pole position, Judd Miller, the 64 machine, in an SR8 from Louis Schreiber. A great battle in qualifying between the front row of the grid and the second row of the grid, Robert Rossi and Steve Jenks. Indy Al Miller, our reigning champion, starts 5th on the grid, and alongside him is Gustavo Raffles in car 28. That was your pole sitter for the Pro 1500 class. John Field will start from 7th position in the Platinum class, alongside Palmer Miller, who was 2nd fastest in Pro 1500. Then we're back to rookie Reese Everett in Pro 1500, starting from 9th. Alongside him will be Todd Solomon. And then in 11th, it's Jim Booth, one of storied radical races that's raced all across the globe. Alongside him, another 1500, Greg Gorski. So a lot of cars intermingled in the top 15. 13th on the grid will be Nate Smith in the 00 machine. Alongside him, Pius Engelmann, a club racer from up in the north of the country. David Flint starts 15th in Pro 1500, and he will be alongside Chris McMurray in the 200 machine, and McMurray was the pole sitter in the Pro 1340 class, and we'll get to those classes in just a moment. Behind McMurray, David Albon starts 17th, and next to him is Austin Riley in car 20, all the way from Canada, and our Canadian champion. The Pro 1500 class of Kent Myers starts 19th, alongside Scott Wagner. Then we're back to Reed Stewart, Vince Switzer, Richard Girosha, Mike Anzaldi, Thomas Palladino, Chris Kemp, PJ Hyatt, Mark Allen, Jason Greenwood, and Jason Plotke having a disastrous qualifying session. He was on the podium of the Pro 1340 class last year here at Barber Motorsports Park, but will start back of the field. So the cars are going down past the stunning museum here on the grounds of this beautiful racetrack. They will start to line up and form. This is the second of the 2 pace laps. The race time has actually started, but we should be going green this time by. And on cue, the front row of the grid starts to settle. The drivers behind, 30 cars, will have to get assembled in order very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Because the race director is telling us we will be going green this time by. And a huge field for round 1 of the Blue Marble Radical Cup. They're looking racy at the front. Fair few stragglers, it should be said, going back through the field. But everyone will be anticipating a green as they round the second to last corner there.
Ought to be an exciting start, if the practice was any indication.
It'll be interesting to see how the SR8 fares against the 425 brake horsepower SR10 of Louis Schreiber, and Judd Miller will be hoping to get the jump. We are coming to the starter's stand, and we are waiting for a green. They're holding them for quite a long time. The field is looking racy, and it's green, green, green here for race 1, round 1 of the Blue Marble Radical Cup. 3-4 wide down the back of the pack. There's been a little bit of a lockup into turn 1. Oh, we've had some chaos there. 4 cars into the gravel, and one of them is our Canadian champion, and that is a disaster for Austin Riley, who is not getting his US campaign underway the way he'd want. Into the hairpin, and it seems like the rest of the field settled themselves down. A couple of passes here and there. See the black and gold car of Nate Smith getting eclipsed by one of the SR10s that was out of place after qualifying. And you'll notice the different classes on the rear wing. And a little bit more dust, and his car is sideways down through the chicane near the museum. Just trying to pick that up on screen. I believe that was so full course caution was we're being told by race control. And another car, that could be Greg Gorski off at the top of the hill. So chaos here on the opening lap. And it is indeed full course caution, so we anticipate the safety car to come out here. But so we'll hopefully go to some replays of some of the action on this opening lap as the cars are deployed around behind the safety car, and you can just, so here we go. What happens back in the pack? You can see that there's a car well down on the inside, all out of shape, and collects an innocent bystander of Austin Riley, and then two other cars with nowhere to go, including, that looks like Mike Anzaldi, who is Pro 1340 reigning champion in the number one. Indeed it is, with the Williams-esque inspired livery. And the front of the field getting through relatively cleanly. It's amazing how much of a gap Judd Miller makes off the start line there to second place Louis Schreiber, as you can see the commotion unfold. And those cars just with absolutely nowhere to go. And then, of course, getting beached by the gravel trap, which does its job. Unfortunately for those competitors, at least two of them stuck down in the gravel. Beautiful instant replays here. So the safety crews down on the scene. And a good start then for Judd Miller from Louis Schreiber, getting the early jump and retaining his pole position.
Yeah, turn one is notorious for collecting cars at the start of the race.
It is indeed. It's a very fast corner. It's a short braking zone, and therefore, if you've got to make a move, you're trying to present in a very small amount of time or space. And of course, if you don't get the pass done, or if you dive down on the inside, as that overly optimistic driver did, then you're going to come to blows here at Barber. So here we go. We've got a replay now of this second incident in the chicane down towards the museum. Up at the top of the screen, we'll look for some chaos. And you can see one of the drivers off in the gravel, but that's no issue. It must come later. Beautiful slow-mo, and there we go, a spin right at the top of the screen. And it does look like that driver may have got a helping hand. But again, a very short braking zone into the start of that chicane, and it is easy to have contact. With 30 cars on the field, it's not surprising that we had a little bit of chaos. And Austin Riley is still beached in the gravel.
Yep. Well, we've got the folks here do a great job, the safety team and the support crew here. But when you have that many cars early on in one section, as a matter of fact, it's going to take them a little longer than normal to get them out, but it won't take that long. Just be prepared. We're going to be back to racing very quickly, but yeah, a little confusing. As you can see, they're down there working hard. We can see from our vantage point and trying to get the cars out of the kitty litter.
So just before all of that unfolded, we were just explaining the three classes that are racing today. So you'll notice the cars at the front of the field, the leader, Judd Miller, Louis Schreiber, Robert Rossi in the 611, the 68, all of those cars have yellow, day-glow yellow on the rear wing, indicating they're in the platinum class. Typically, that's an SR10 model, and you can notice that there's big nostrils on the front of that car, as well as some rather big side scoops, so that's an easy way to pick the SR10s. The Pro 1500 designates the CC of the engine, a 1500 Hayabusa-derived Radical performance engine, and so effectively a motorcycle power plant, although heavily worked by Radical in England. And the Pro 1500 cars are obvious because they have red on the back of the rear wing, and as Gustavo Raffles goes past us in the commentary box, he is your leader, your current leader in Pro 1500 in the car 28. You'll notice behind him, the car 32 of Palmer Miller also has the red on the rear wing. Pro 1340 is designated by green on the rear wing, and that's a 1340cc SR3. So two versions of the amazing Radical SR3. It's one of the most popular race cars in North America and the world. In fact, Radical only second to Porsche for the number of race cars that it produces year in, year out. And most of those cars, believe it or not, make their way across the pond and end up in the USA, about 70% of them.
Really? That's fascinating. And we were commenting earlier about the liveries of the cars that are in the series, and then the stories behind them that Tom shares as we race. But a Superman livery, a Batman, I find it all very fascinating. And the Texas, a flag of Texas on one, and the Porsche 917 paint similarities. I mean, they're all out there, and gosh, it just makes the sport that much more interesting. But the real action is the people behind the wheel, and they really do a good job. And it's all about while the cars are special, and you and I have talked about them being spec cars, the drivers are the folks who have to make the difference.
Absolutely, and that's why you saw, I guess drivers trying to make an opportunity off the start. Always starts are important, but as they say, to finish first you must finish. And unfortunately, a number of drivers not even making their way through turn one. Bit of a shame to have this extended period under the safety car. Just under 29 minutes remaining in the motor race, so plenty of time left on the clock, but this is definitely not the way that we wanted to start the season, with cars in the gravel trap and touring behind the safety car. Just want to run through a couple of the order at the moment in Pro 1500, because this will be a fantastic battle. Gustavo Raffles, we mentioned, our reigning champion, has converted his pole position to retain the lead in that class from Palmer Miller in the 32. Then it's Reese Everett, a rookie to Radical, but a very experienced open-wheel driver. And then we're back to Greg Gorski in the number 24 machine from Nate Smith, who rounds out the top five. In Pro 1340, Chris McMurray has also managed to stay ahead of his in-class rivals. And so it's McMurray from David Albon, then Reed Stewart. Jason Plotke, who's done a tremendous job to carve his way up through all of that chaos and be fourth in the Pro 1340 class after just really 3/4 of a lap of racing. So a great start there. And in fact, I dare say at the moment, he would be on for our Sunoco Hard Charger Award, I think, Jason Plotke from Apex Motor Club.
Well, the folks here making a concerted effort to quickly clear the cars out of the gravel trap at turn one. They have one car left, and they're right on it.
So one of the biggest challenges you have as a driver is these horrible, horrible full course caution periods.
Yes.
You know, you've just built up all the expectation, all the anticipation of going racing. You've sort of jockeyed for position for a couple of laps, or a couple of corners in this instance, and tried to get into your rhythm. Some of those drivers will have been successful at that, others not. But all of a sudden, the tempo calms down and you're trundling around behind the safety car. You've sort of lost your rhythm. You're out of place. You know, the braking markers mean nothing because you're going so slow. You're trying to retain heat in the tyres, trying to keep a very clear mind. Of course, those that didn't quite find their rhythm in those opening few corners will be thinking, right, this is a time to reset. And I've got another chance as we go back to the green. So, you know, a number of drivers will be thinking about their strategy, thinking about what they did right, what they did wrong over those first few corners. A couple of them probably kicking themselves for giving up a position. Yep. Others pleased with their starts. And now it's just a case of refocusing.
Well, and you wonder, and I've often wondered sitting here from our position, if any of the drivers are reluctant to charge into that morass, which is the turn one at the start of the race. If you don't have to be aggressive. I think you summed it up best. To finish first, you first have to finish. And we see that, and you have too, and you mentioned it a lot. It runs counter to their ability and their psyche, but you almost have to kind of just say, okay, I'm going to let these guys all go get through it. But if you do that, the accident happening in front of you, or you causing the accident by slowing down or not being aggressive, that all those things come into play.
You've just got to find that balance. Obviously, again, you know, turn one,
well said.
Lap one can be a great opportunity to make a move, but you know, that was an overzealous move, trying to squeeze down the inside. We actually went through it in the driver's briefing that turn one is tight, that the braking zone is short, that you really have to give each other space. But you could see on the replay we showed before, the car was locked up. It was out of control before, and it was just basically the driver was, you know, arriving at the scene of the accident that he was causing. So, you know, unfortunately, a little bit too hot, taking a little bit too much at the green, and that's what happens. But it looks like this tow truck will probably be one more lap, I think, under the green.
Yep.
As the cars stream through that final corner here, past the Honda signage. And amazingly, the trainer car's already passing the accident in the tow truck. So 30 cars starting this, what will be a 6-round, 18-race season.
I see the driver getting back into the tow truck, the flatbed truck, and he's pulling away.
So we'll have just over 20 minutes of racing. Hopefully it will be flag to flag. But certainly a lot of these guys are going to have to really start to bunch up and pack up, because again, why give it up? You know, but the safety car is going to be the opportunity to get a great restart and try and get a run on the guy in front. And if you're not right up the gearbox, then all you're doing is giving yourself a missed opportunity. Good to see the number one of Mike Anzaldi still out there, but with a lot of work to do. Same with David Flint, who was involved in that melee at the start.
Well, I want to folks around, just take a note of the Pace van, if you will. It's the livery for that is Racing for Children's, presented by Medical Properties Trust. They are Children's of Alabama. They serve patients who are children with cancer. and they are a great fundraising arm. You're going to see they have a dinner here tonight in the museum, and they've got a special announcement coming up regarding Indy cars. And that's the first I've seen of the Pace van, so thank you all. So we're ready to go back racing.
Well, I think that Pace van is going to be in pit lane any moment, because we can see the cars are starting to build up speed as the leaders come through the final corner and down towards the start line. And it is green, green, green again here at Barber Motorsports Park. Race 1 of the Blue Marble Radical Cup. And hopefully those hand-cooked tyres are now a little warmer after a few more pace laps, if you will. The field amazingly strung out, so drivers were allowed to pass after the green flag flew. And amazing that not more people were closer. And the car 23 going very slow there. But you can see the cars trundling back through the field as others go up and over the crest of turn 4. And everyone getting through cleanly so far. Into that beautiful center hairpin here. And again, a little bit of a look down there. But everyone pretty calm. And we could just see an SR10 making a move out of screen there as they were going down the straightaway into the chicane. So things a little calmer now that we've gone green flag racing. Judd Miller, you can see, still ahead of Louis Schreiber from the 611. And an amazing drive so far of Robert Rossi, who's come into this series with a huge explosion, because he is just driving the wheels off this car. Apparently all of his experience is really on the simulator. So down the straightaway we go. We could see there the 32, that red and blue of Palmer Miller, who's second behind Gustavo Raffles as they cross the line. Further back, it is still Creech McMurray who is leading Pro 1340. And a good train of cars there with Mike Anzaldi right on the gearbox as someone. Oh, there's a big puff of smoke going down into the center hairpin. And that looked like one of the Scott Wagner Racing SR10s. Down through the chicane, it's super fun in one of these downforce cars. The big trick is trying to get the momentum right and not return to throttle in the middle of the chicane, but obviously get to the throttle early and stick it on the exit. Down the straightaway, through the high-speed kinks after the museum, and then up and around the crest and into the final corners here at Barber Motorsport Park. So the field did really get spread out after that restart. Everyone finding their groove. It would be interesting to see some of the lap times, because the lap times in this race will set the grid for race 2. A little bit of a look there onto the main straightaway, and further back another pass. So that was the 27 of Reed Stewart who was having a look, and further back it was indeed Mike Anzaldi, who is making his way up through the field and was past Jason Plotke along the main straight, using one of the faster cars to get a good run on Plotke. Into the hairpin, we just saw David Albon make a pass in that green and blue car. And that was a really nice, clean pass. A little bit cleaner now that we've had that chaos at the start of the race. So it's India Miller, our reigning Platinum Class champion, who's only 4th at the moment, unbelievably. He needs to start making a move if he's got any chance to catch the leaders. But he is getting closer to the 111 of Louis Schreiber. So look out for the blue and white car. It's coming around. It will crest turn 4 any moment. If you're here at the track, on screen we can see the battles further down the pack. And David Albon again getting racy and getting closer to a car in front. So come down the straight, and so that is Albon on the back of the 27 of, I believe, of that should be Reed Stewart rather. Number of new names and faces in the paddock. Great to see Radical Racing, always a strong contingent of drivers that come back year after year after year. In fact, some of these drivers now on their 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th Radical, would you believe?
Wow.
And a big bit of dust kicked up in the chicane.
I can't tell if that's...
Is that just track signage, or have we got a car up there? I think it's just track signage, isn't it?
I think so.
But this series attracting a number of new drivers, and drivers from all sorts of disciplines, whether that's open wheelers. We've got some famous names on the grid as well. John Field, a former American Le Mans Series champion.
Well, we talked earlier. This is really, and it's a relative statement, but this is a great way to go racing, and price-wise, and you don't have to invest in R&D, racing development, because it's done for you.
Well, that's it. I mean, I might be a little biased, but I think it's the best bang for buck, if you will,
I'm glad
in
you said
motorsport.
But yes.
And obviously, we think it's still one of the best kept secrets in motorsport as well. Radical Racing is fantastic. The cars are eligible for so many forms of the sport here in North America, from SCCA Club Racing. The cars are eligible for P2 right out of the box. Obviously, you can come away and do a full national series with the Blue Marble Radical Cup. You can time trial the car. They're closed wheel cars, so they're great for time trials. They're great for track day driving.
Those are fun. All those are, you know, there's all kinds of level of involvement with folks who love to get behind the wheel of a car, especially. This appears to be just a great way to do it.
Now, what has happened somewhere along the line, the 111 of Louis Schreiber has come to blows, and I wonder whether that was that dust that we saw down through the chicane a lap ago, because now the order at the front of the field is Judd Miller from Robert Rossi. Then it's Indiao Miller, who's put himself into a podium position. Then we're back to the 68 of Steve Jex, who stepped up from the SR3 to the 425 brake horsepower SR10, the torque monster, as we mentioned before. And would you believe Gustavo Raffles is ahead of Louis Schreiber as well? So you can see David Albon again getting plenty of airtime further back in the field. Hopefully at some point we'll pick up the leaders in the race. We just saw Anzaldi go past. He's in the Pro 1340 class. He's up to 5th from right at the back after that, after getting collected by the altercation in turn 1. The black and gold car just went through screen. And that is Nate Smith running 5th in Pro 1500. There he is again. So chasing down, and we've got cars side by side. Up and over the crest. That's a dodgy place to do that. And it's getting close at the front, so really racy now as they come around the final couple of corners. And we'll see who that is. We'll pick them up down the straightaway. But that is Louis Schreiber, who's defending hard. And Louis possibly with a bit of an issue, because Palmer Miller, who is not in the Platinum class, he's in the Pro 1500 class, sort of in the mix between Louis Schreiber and Jim Booth, Mr. McDonald's, with one of the Scott Wagner cars just running wide. And down into the hairpin.
Got a covey of cars, if you will, going into 5.
Absolutely, and the difference in speed. So you can see the the strength, if you will, of the SR10s against the Pro 1500s. The 10s motoring past on the straights, but the Pro 1500s tend to corner a little bit quicker, just a little bit lighter weight, and a big plume of dust as they exit the museum corner. So multi-class racing, and it's a bit of a game of chess. Obviously, if you've got an out-of-place car or out-of-class car between you and your competitor, you're thinking, right, this is pretty good. I've got a buffer zone. And it's, you know, it's about, what is that? You know,
right,
5 meters long, buffer zone. So, but of course, if you're trying to catch the guy in front and you can see a different color on the rear wing in front of you, thinking, come on, I need to get around this out-of-class car.
Well, and the intimidation of having the faster cars, but whoops, little wheel off. Yep.
Yeah, and that was actually 4 positions. So that was Todd Solomon. And we'll try and pick up who that was. It was Todd Solomon and John Field going at it in turn 1, and Field sort of running Solomon a little wide down into the chicane, or sorry, into the hairpin. It is Nate Smith who's defending hard against Greg Gorski. And you can see them side by side as they come up. Be interesting to see how they come through this chicane at the end. And it is still Nate Smith ahead of Gorski, and then Todd Solomon in the SR10 behind. So just over 10 minutes remaining in this race.
We got a car spin out in here in Charlotte's Web.
We do.
He's okay. Looks like he's recovered well.
Yeah, you could just see that blue and green car recover in the shot there. And luckily, racing remains green.
Yep.
So at the front of the field,
and another car gets a little loose in Charlotte's Web and coming out.
At the front of the field, and that may have even been our overall leader, Judd Miller, who's still leading from Robert Rossi, Indy Al Miller. And then it's Steve Jenks, Louis Schreiber, Jim Booth is rounding out the top 6 in platinum. Now, in terms of the overall positions, it's a little bit different, because in the middle of all of that mix are some of the Pro 1500 cars, and leading that class at the moment is our reigning champion, Gustavo Raffles. In fact, Gustavo, having won the outright championship as well, has a free trip to England, courtesy of Radical Sports Cars, to go and run in the English Series as reward for his championship.
Cool.
So a pretty nice little prize, whether you're a young gun looking to make a mark on the international scene, or perhaps someone that's come to the sport a little bit later in life and looking not just to tick off the bucket list tracks here in North America, but also around the world.
We see the number 23 coming down on pit road. Is moving rather gingerly.
So the difference at the front of the field is only small. It's only about 2 seconds between Judd Miller and Robert Rossi. Now, we're just seeing some of the Pro 1500 cars going through the shot. And in fact, Gustavo Raffles was one of the first. There he is. Indeed, our leader in Pro 1500. But the leaders overall are coming through the field. So there's Raffles, who's leading 1500. That next car is Indiana Miller. Then it's Jason Greenwood. And Louis Schreiber is in there. So amazingly, around this very condensed racetrack with short straightaways, the Pro 1500s, only 1500cc engines, very, very, very quick compared to these really ultra-powerful SR10 machines.
It's fascinating to watch them come out of turn 5 and accelerate, going up and headed towards the back of the track in the museum turn, because you can really tell the difference in who's who, as you see right going into Charlotte's Web there with the cars.
So some more cars there just coming through screen out of class and vying for position, track position, trying to get up to the next in-class competitor. Steve Jenks being followed by last year's rival, if you will, Gustavo Raffles. He'd be getting a shock to see a 1500 in the mirror. Raffles doing an outstanding job showing why he's the Pro 1500 class champion. Running 4th overall for Wisco Racing. And as we go through that leaderboard, so Todd Solomon in 12th from Nate Smith, and then Chris McMurray 14th overall. But McMurray is the leader in Pro 1340 from Reed Stewart, David Albon, Vince Switzer, and Mike Anzaldi, the champion, the reigning champion, only 5th in class. So a new season, new year, new competition, and all of a sudden some of these champions aren't finding it easy.
Yeah. Well, it certainly is. This is great fun to watch, as they are very, even though we have different classes, they all seem to be so evenly matched.
And around the hairpin, that was Judd Miller going through the screen, the stars and bars of the American flag, as a big plume of dust gets kicked up further back. And that looks like a pass. That was Chris Kemp, who was getting passed by David Flint. So Kemp being passed by the 1500, 57 of David Flint. And another bit of dust being kicked up by Mark Allen, the Superman liveried car that you love.
Yes.
Just in the chicane. And Mark, we mentioned earlier in qualifying, coming back after a 7-year hiatus, a fantastic radical competitor, member out at Spring Mountain Country Club, and as we mentioned, so many drivers coming from country clubs all around this nation. The leader of Pro 1340 from Apex in Arizona. We've got guys who are members out at Atlanta Motorsport Park.
Yeah.
From Autobahn in Chicago, PJ Hyatt, who we mentioned unfortunately was trundling down through pit lane in that stunning Porsche-inspired livery. He's one of the guys from Chicago, and amazingly, there's at some of these country clubs over 50 radicals on site racing regularly. I think at Spring Mountain there's something like 150 between the cars that are in garages and on the racetrack.
Well, and you brought it up, and I don't want to distract from the racing on track, but the term country club is a little bit misleading. What you need to understand is the people they have their car stored there, or they don't. They bring it in. They have certain days or times that they can do it during the week. They can go every time. They can go out by themselves. They can a club event. But they build camaraderie with the other drivers. That certainly helps them and their skill levels, and that's the difference. And the term country club is you have like keeping your clubs at your golf course.
It is indeed, and we're chasing the leaders around the racetrack, or we were certainly. Judd Miller there going through screen, so he's still the leader in the 64 for Esses Racing out of Texas, Radical Texas, the dealer based in Austin. And Judd Miller doing a tremendous job, and some great shots coming from the cameras. We just saw a shot of Miller really giving it his all. You can see the front of that SR8 moving around a little bit. These tyres, of course, have now done nearly 40 minutes of racing. The drivers have been out there in the beautiful sunshine, but of course that means heat and perhaps a little bit of... they're getting a little bit thirsty now, a little bit hot under the collar, and manhandling one of these cars around.
Burned off fuel. Cars getting lighter. It's changing with every lap, and we've said that before. But it just, you just have to you adjust every lap. It's a different can be a different car.
It's a slightly different braking point, that's absolutely right. You know, you can sort of start to see how much more speed you can carry through the corners. And around a place like Barber, really important to keep that momentum up. It's all important. And Miller in the groove at the moment in the Radical SR8, streaming through that final corner. There's just under 2 minutes left in this race, so we won't see the white flag this time by. But Miller with about 2 tours left in the Platinum class. And the black helmet, the stars and bars, as we mentioned, leading this race from the 611 of Robert Rossi, who is just having the race of his life. In second place, Steve Jenks is up to third, so that's awesome job for Group A. He said in qualifying that he actually had the setting on the steering wheel, the power mode.
Really?
He was in power 7 and not power 8. So he was losing about 20 horsepower in qualifying.
Wow.
From you know, perhaps just brushing his hand against the switch.
Right.
And he was infuriated with himself afterwards. But as he said, well, at least it was that simple. Just dial it back up to 8 and let's go racing.
Well, Miller has been impressive in this race, starting from the first flash of the green flag. He has been our leader.
Yeah, and carving his way up through the pack extremely well, staying out of trouble.
Yep.
As he rounds the
knocking off the back
corner.
markers one at a time and not causing any trouble, staying out of trouble.
If so, indeed, he will receive the white flag this time by. So, Judd Miller is starting his final tour. Race 1, round 1 of 18 races in the Blue Marble Radical Cup North America Series. And the 28 of Gustavo Raffles is still leading Pro 1500 from Reese Everett, who has got ahead of Palmer Miller. So Reese Everett has found himself now in second and is looking for that second step of the podium. Palmer Miller relegated to third. We'll see what they can do on the final lap. In Pro 1340, it's Chris McMurray from Reed Stewart. Vince Switzer is next, as Miller navigates this stunning circuit. What weather, what a weekend here with IndyCar at Barber Motorsports Park. It is so good to be here and be a part of this atmosphere. The fans are amazing. The crowd is huge. It is really good just to be at the racetrack again.
Well, and you all, we're so excited to have you back and to see how the series has grown since you were here last. It is just phenomenal.
Well, grow it does, but it's a series stalwart who will cross the line and take the checkered flag first. Congratulations, he weaves down the main straight. It's Judd Miller for S's Racing who takes the first win, the outright win and platinum win of the season. And it's the 611. Robert Rossi will be screaming inside of his helmet. He's taken a position 2, a second step of the podium in his first race of the season. And Steve Jenks home third in the Platinum class. A great start for Group A racing as well out of New York. In Pro 1500, it's Gustavo Raffles, the champ. He didn't do it last year. All 3 races were a bit of a challenge for him here at Barber. He pulled the rest of the season together. This time he starts it off right with a win. Congratulations to him, as well as Reese Everett in the 61 machine. A rookie, as I said before, to Radical, comes away with second place. First time out, Palmer Miller relegated to third. Still a strong result for young Miller, and that's father and son on 2 podiums. So that's never a bad day at the racetrack. Greg Gorski home 4th in Pro 1500, and then it was Nate Smith.
What a race, and this is the first of 2?
First of 3, so
three.
First of 2 sprint races, and then the final race of the weekend features a pit stop.
Okay.
As we say, that always throws a cat amongst the pigeons. It allows a few a few of the crew to play a role in that. Obviously,
goodness.
strategy can play a role. Do you wait? Do you wait for a yellow, a full course caution, or do you come in and attempt the undercut? Do you try and stay out and find some clean air?
Right.
I love this shot through pit lane as the cars trundle in and down the racetrack.
We're going to see the unofficial results here in just a moment. There you go.
So yes, it was indeed Judd Miller from Robert Rossi, Steve Jenks, Indy Al Miller, the top 4, all in the Platinum class. Home 5th was our first in Pro 1500, Gustavo Raffles. Then we're back to John Field in Platinum. Reese Everett, who took 2nd in Pro 1500. Louis Schreiber, who was in the Platinum class. Jim Booth, another in Platinum. Palmer Miller, 3rd in the Pro 1500s. And then we're back to Greg Gorski, Todd Solomon, Nate Smith, Chris McMurray, Puce Engerman, Reed Stewart, Vince Switzer, and Chris McMurray was home first in Pro 1340 from from Reed Stewart and then teammate Vince Switzer. So that was the top 3 in Pro 1340.
All right. Well, you know what's fun about this is I don't have to talk as much because Tom does such a great job. He's so eloquent and a lot of fun. It was fun to sit here and be by your side and watch the race and talk a little bit when you have things under control, which is done. Then you know the drivers. That makes all the difference for the folks out there. You know, don't forget, I bring it up again, you're going to get a chance to see these cars again tomorrow morning. It's going to be our first race of the day, 8 a.m. So please come back. And if you've liked what you've seen, tell your friends to come and bring them with you. And so for all of us, Tom, thanks a lot. We're going to do anything with Victory Lane or anything?
We're certainly going up to our paddock to celebrate the victors in the Blue Marble Radical Cup. It has been fantastic. It always is here at Barber Motorsport Park. Big shout out to our sponsors, Motul and Hankook.
Yes.
Of course, USAC as well, coming on board as our sanctioning partner for this year. And we're so pleased to have USAC on board. Of course, Blue Marble, Sunoco Race Fuels, Racing Radios as well. And I just want to also shout out all of the race fans from around the world that joined us on that live stream, and to all the people back in the factory that love watching these cars race all around the globe.
Outstanding. Well, it is truly, as we talk about auto racing, is truly an international sport. This is a great example. Tom, thanks again. We'll see you first thing in the morning. Go enjoy the victors of, listen to the folks celebrate tomorrow.
It's time to spray some champagne.
Don't get it on the clothes of the guys who have to drive.
No, we don't mind wasting that champagne. We will save the blue marbles for later.
All right.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks.